Part 1 showed how dealer add-ons get into the deal. Part 2 is about what happens next. Because once the add-on is on the car, the real question is, what is the buyer being charged for it? The item may be small, the dealer's cost may be low, but the customer price may be much higher. That difference is not random. That difference is the business of the dealer. In part 2, we follow the money from dealer cost to customer charge. The first thing to understand is this: cost is not price. What the dealership pays is not what the buyer is charged. An add-on may cost very little to install or apply, but once it enters the deal, it becomes a customer charge. That is where markup appears. The difference between cost and price is the spread, and the spread is what matters in this case. This is where the add-on, quote unquote, changes. It is no longer just a product. It becomes a line item. And once it is printed on the buyer's order, it starts to feel official. And that matters, because now it affects the total. Now it looks like part of the deal. And once it looks official, the buyer is no longer just questioning an item. They are questioning a number that is already inside the transaction. The next move is the package. Instead of showing each add-on separately, the dealership bundles them. Protection package, appearance package, dealer package. Now the buyer sees one number, not individual costs. That makes the spread harder to see, because once items are bundled, the buyer cannot easily tell what each item cost, what each item is worth, and how much markup is inside the package. The bundle hides the spread. Next, once the charge is printed, it gains authority. It is no longer a suggestion. It is part of the paperwork. Now it sits next to the vehicle price, taxes, and fees. That changes how the buyer sees it. The charge looks legitimate, even if the buyer never clearly agreed to it. And that is why printing the charge matters. It turns markup into something that feels official. So this now becomes the markup machine. A small dealer cost goes in, a large customer charge comes out. That is the model. The product may be simple, the cost may be low, but once it moves through the dealership's pricing system, the number changes. The item is not the focus, the spread is. And this is where the buyers truly get misled. They focus on the product, the paint protection, the door guards, the nitrogen gas in the tires, and they ask, is this worth it? But that is not the real question. The real question is, what did the dealer pay and what am I being charged? Because the product may be small, but the spread may be large. And this is why the buyers accept the spread. Not because they love the add-on, not because they study the price, they accept it because of the process. By this point, they have chosen the car. They have invested a considerable amount of time. They may already picture owning it, and now the charge is sitting in the deal. The dealership does not need agreement. It only needs the buyer to decide it is not worth the fight. That is the pressure point. Fatigue makes the spread easier to accept. And now we can see what the business model is quite clearly. Low dealer cost, higher customer charge, profit in between. That gap is the business itself. The product creates the opportunity, the pricing creates the profit, the buyer sees the item, the dealership focuses on the spread. In the end, part two comes down to one idea. The markup is the business. Cost is not price. Packages hide the spread. Printed charges make it feel official. And once the charge is in the deal, the buyer may stop questioning the number. The product may be small, the cost may be low, but the price may be much higher, and that gap is the point. Part two showed the dealer's markup system. The buyer now understands how the system works, and with that understanding, part three gives the buyer their own system to respond to the question, what do I do before I sign? Let's stay connected, everyone. Please remember to subscribe, like, and comment. And of course, thanks for watching and listening. And we will see you in that next episode.